when we talk about percents and ratios, first thing to notice is that a percent is a piece of the total. So we're dealing with part of the whole thing. To do calculations with percentages, you always need to convert it to a decimal first. To convert a percent into a decimal, divide it by 100. So this bit is easy enough. You definitely need to do it as with a calculator. 15%, so 15 divided by 100 turns into 0.15. 2.8%, we're going to divide by 100 again. So 2.8 divided by 100 turns into 0.028. So that much is easy enough. You always need to start by doing that if you see a percent. Every time we want to find the percent of a total, you multiply your percent by the total amount. So 12% of 27. Firstly, I'm going to do 12 divided by 100 in my calculator, and that's 0.12. And I'm going to multiply it by the $27. So 12% of 27.12 times 27 turns out to be 3.24. Over here, if I do 9% of 18, firstly, 9% is 0.09 times 18 turns, I forgot my equal sign over here. 0.09 times 18 is 1.62. Easy enough. A ratio is a part-to-part comparison. So we are comparing how much each part is using a colon. And that is this guy right here. Looks like two dots on top of each other. These numbers add up to the total number of parts. So I said you can mess with ratio parts as long as you multiply or divide all of them by the same number. That's easier to understand when you look at how it does. Red and white marbles are in a bag with a 2-to-1 ratio. So this guy tells us that it is a ratio. It also just has the colon in there, so you can tell it's a ratio even if you didn't know that. So let's just start off with this. I like to label it up. Red and white marbles are in a 2-to-1 ratio. So if I have 2 marbles and 1 white marble, then in total, I have 3 marbles in the bag, 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 plus 1 makes 3. But this bag has way more than 3 marbles. It has 30 marbles. So I need to think of some math facts in my head. How did we get from 3 to 30? Now it's either a multiplying or dividing. In this case, the multiplying pattern, if I multiply by 10, 3 times 10 gives me 30. So I can do that for all of them. 2 times 10 gives me 20. 1 times 10 gives me 10. So how many red marbles are there? Well, there's 20 red marbles. So you can multiply or divide as many times as you need to as long as you know how the ratio works. So let's do one that's a little bit longer. Given the ratio, 3 green to 7 pink to 2 yellow, 3 to 7 to 2, jelly beans in a bag. So let's do that real fast. Green, pink, yellow, and then of course we need to know how much the total is. It tells us that there are 3 green, 7 yellow, 7 pink, 2 yellow. If I add those up, there are 12 jelly beans in the bag. You know there are 21 green jelly beans. So this one's interesting. It doesn't go in the total column. It goes in the green column. So here is where I need to think of my math fact. How did I get from 3 to 21? Well, that's times 7. So I'm going to do that for all of them. 7 times 7 is 49. 2 times 7 is 14. 12 times 7 is 84. And the question is, how many jelly beans are there in total? So I'm going to look at the total column. 84. 84 jelly beans in total. All right, the last one is an ACT question. 1,000 people were asked their preference of movie genre. 7.5% of those asked preferred horror movies, 35% horror films, 20% dramas, 37.5 comedies. How many people like horror films? Well, notice this one is a percent question from way up here. So I'm going to underline some things. 1,000 people, that's my total. And it asks specifically about horror films. So most of this question is complete garbage. I don't care about the romantic films. I don't care about the dramas. I don't care about the comedies, anything like that. So the first thing I'm going to do, I see a percent, and I need to turn that into a decimal. So that's 7.5 divided by 100 is 0.075, and I need to multiply it by the total. There were a total of 1,000 people that were asked. So if I do that in my calculator, 0.075 times 1,000, I get 75. So the correct answer here is C. 75 people enjoyed horror films.